And if there's been one positive from the pandemic hell of recent years, it's the growing awareness of just how influential our planet's shadowy, unelected elites can be on sovereign nations. So from the World Health Organization to the World Economic Forum, more people than ever before are asking crucial questions about their globalist agendas, funding and intent. That also includes billionaire Microsoft founder Bill Gates, who has seemingly gone from software developer to global health expert with an obsession with vaccines. Gates famously said jabs were the best investment he'd ever made, so it's no surprise to hear growing concern over his potentially sinister involvement in COVID public health policy. Here's what Tory leadership candidate, she's new leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt, told me when I quizzed her on her own relationship with the one-time associate of Jeffrey Epstein last week. The things that people were very concerned about were your links to Bill Gates, because, of course, he is someone who has been very controversial over the past couple of years. His work with the World Economic Forum has worried a lot of people over the COVID pandemic. Do you just want to explain, because I don't think you've ever been asked about it before, what your relationship with Bill Gates is, and do you think he has too much of an influence on British politicians?
So I don't think he has too much of an influence on British politicians. I think he's only come to Parliament a few times in the whole time that I've been there. I got to know him through international development, and he made some investments in some of our universities to help pest control. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think by and large the world is a better place for having had Bill Gates in it.
So Neil Oliver, Penny Mordaunt there confirming that Bill Gates is at Westminster a lot. Now, she doesn't think we should be concerned about it, but I am, and I know you are too.
I think it's possibly helpful to remember that Bill Gates is an oligarch. We've had decades of being told to be suspicious of and aware of Russian oligarchs, as though those men, and it is almost exclusively men who have achieved hitherto unimaginable wealth, are able to exert influence that they're effectively buying. But we forget to remember that oligarchs don't just exist in Russia, or they don't just exist in Ukraine. That they're in the West, they're in the democratic West as well. Bill Gates is an oligarch, and he is able to buy influence. He's got extraordinary reach on account of his wealth. Whatever you're involved in, whatever you're doing at home, whatever products you buy, whatever brands that you're interested in, the chances are Bill Gates is invested in them. It would be hard as a private person, far less a corporate entity, to be untouched by the influence and the reach of Bill Gates. His fingerprints are everywhere. Now, is that necessarily malign? Who knows? I think the question is, someone who's so involved and who does, there's Penny Mordaunt saying that he's been in Parliament or he's had connections to Parliament multiple times. We probably should know more about him, because ultimately he is an unelected individual. He is just a private person, and yet he is able to exert considerable influence over decisions that are made on a global scale because he's fabulously wealthy. And you alluded to the fact that he's not a scientist. He's a successful businessman. He's made his money selling software, but somehow or other he's extensively invested in vaccines around the world. Has been for decades in the third world with mixed success. As you said, he has freely admitted that vaccines are the best investment he's ever made. I think it's 20-1 is the return that he talks about. He's able to fly under the flag of philanthropy, because the general impression that most people have is of him giving away his money. As though he's got uncountable billions, and by the end of his life he's planning to have nothing left. He'll just have given it all away on good causes. But for all of the money that he gives away via the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, he's making money hand over fist. on account of vaccines. The money's going out the front door where people see it, but much bigger sums are coming in the back door. So he is being personally enriched at a colossal rate at the same time as he's able to present himself as a philanthropist. And it does beg the question, you or I get challenged all the time, Dan, you're not a scientist, you're not a virologist, you're not an epidemiologist, you're not this, that and the next thing, and so why are you talking about this subject? Well, neither is Bill Gates, but somehow or other he's able to have credibility.
And he's the oracle. He's the oracle. He's on CNN, he's on everything all the time. So, Neil, I mean, look, today we've seen this new government take shape. How important is it for Liz Truss and these new ministers to declare that they have no interests or connections with the World Economic Forum and that if they have anything to do with this body, they'll be transparent about it?
Well, I think it would be important, but I don't think it's possible that they can declare that they don't have any interest in or they're not influenced by these organisations. I think to some extent it was probably ever thus. We're probably all being naive if we think that governments 50 years ago or 100 years ago in this country were operating independently of other organisations in the wider world. I think it's simply on account of internet and social media and the way in which we're all sharing information. It's just becoming more and more exposed, the extent to which government figures here are involved. And I think we need to know more about what and who someone like Bill Gates actually is, because there's no doubt they've invested hugely in the media. He spent hundreds of millions of dollars getting favourable coverage for himself. We need to know more about individuals. Bill Gates is not the only one, but he's the one that we're talking about.
And that's why we will keep on this, Neil Oliver.